Good morning, Mr. Slot. How are you doing today?
Very good, Rajiv. How are you?
Not too bad. Really happy to have you here. Excited to have this conversation. I've been looking forward to it. Transportation is such a hot space. I mean, who would have thought, right? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and but in the last decade, really, Uber, Lyft, self-driving. There's so much happening, and it's a really exciting space to be in. Plus, as a CIO of Lynx, I mean, there's just so much to talk about. So I'm very excited. Um, we have as we've talked about with 2M2X, it's a really about digital transformation and kind of understanding your journey of how you see your own organization going, your past experience with it, and we want to cover all aspects of digital that you apply to your business today and kind of your roadmap for tomorrow. So I'm really excited to dig into all that with you. But first, let me have I did a brief introduction, but love to have a more detailed introduction from you. Kind of cover a little bit of your background, please, and touch upon kind of what got you to where you are today in terms of your past experience prior to Lynx, and then how long have you been at Lynx and some of the things that you've been doing there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rajiv. So I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for the Central Florida Regional Transportation Authority, which is doing business as Lynx. So that is our brand in the marketplace. We are a public agency, a creature of the state, created by state statute. Um, in my role here at the agency, as Chief Innovation Officer, really focused on the future. So in effect, where are we today, and then how do we appropriately position for the future? So under my responsibility is our innovation, sustainability, innovations, as well as planning and development. So strategic planning and street planning, route planning, and development here at the agency are within the divisions of my responsibility. Prior to that, I was also the interim chief operating officer for the last 2 years. Our chief operating officer left the agency, and I stepped in to help for a couple of years. And we've now actually hired a chief operating officer, so now I get to focus on the future again. So the beauty of that was I really got a chance to really understand at a very deep level what it takes to operate the agency, and then now can carry that into how do we plan the future that best enables that strategic direction, that focus on our mission. Prior to being here in public service, I was in business management and strategy consulting for about 25 years, internationally and also domestically. I was a partner in a firm for many, many years, and office leader, market leader, and country leader for my prior consulting life. And then prior to that, I was in merger integrations. I was a general manager of a small, $20 million division within First Data Corporation, which at the time was about a $6 billion organization. So we were a very, very small group, but we would do merger integration with several firms a year, and basically bring them into the First Data family, figure out what components of that business were appropriate, and then sell off the remaining pieces. So that really gave me an opportunity to look at business from a business perspective. And then, of course, consulting, strategic consulting over 25 years. And then now in the innovation side in transportation, I've had clients in transportation for many, many years. And this was just a logical opportunity. I have a passion in transportation anyway, so sort of met two methods, right? So professional as well as personal passion area. So it's a blast and having a great time at it right now.
That's very cool. Tell me about that personal passion. What got you interested in transportation?
I think so. I've always living and working overseas. I've always been a fan of urban planning and well thought through transportation systems. Many times in my life, I did not have a car, did not need a car, living in cities here in the United States as well as internationally in mainland China. I find it interesting that we are a car-based society. There's a lot of reasons that people profess for that. And I think the number one reason is we need a vision and we need to execute that vision. So I think we might at this time, the stars are aligning around creating a transportation network for our community, for our society, that could be really impactful and set the groundwork for, just as we did with the interstate highway system, the Eisenhower system back in the 40s, the rail systems in the 1800s, and this is the time to create the transportation network of our future. So intercity high-speed train, air travel, as well as intra-city. There's some really neat technologies that make that a sustainable, viable future. And to do that without emission, and to do that in an appropriate manner for our generation and our children, I think is an audacious thing, and I'm very excited about it.
Awesome. That's really cool. And your immediate prior role was in technology too, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I was a chief information officer, actually a vice president of information technology for Valencia College. So just prior to coming here. So again, public sector. So I did 30 years on the private side, and my children were at the age where I wanted to be here for them all the time. So coming into the public sector allowed me to have fine balance between my family life and my responsibilities as dad, as well as my work life and responsibilities as steward. So it was a good balance. I've been doing that for over a decade. So
That's awesome. Yeah. And for those who didn't catch all of that, I mean, just to recap, you have 30 plus years of experience, quite a bit of it in the private space with mergers and acquisitions, strategic planning, and then as CIO, as in Chief Information Officer, and now as CIO, Chief Innovation Officer. That is quite a breadth of knowledge. And usually we find, a lot of C-level people in the information space have come up through the ranks, typically in information, but you've got a real breadth of experience, which is really cool because as I'm sure you'll agree, to really do innovation, you can't just be about technology. You have to really understand how the business and technology come together, right? And that's really what digital transformation is about. And if you're talking about digital transformation, in my mind, there's really not a disconnect between digital transformation and innovation because, like you said, it's all about the focus on the future, which is we know the future as we know the present pretty much is all about technology. If you're not in technology, you can't really see what your future is going to be in a decade or two, right? Because everything that's not technology right now is already getting disrupted if it hasn't been disrupted already. So that is really good background because part of what we want to talk about is really how you see transportation evolving and how you see technology playing a role in that evolution. So let's get right into it. So tell me a little bit about your current experience with Lynx and kind of what the situation was when you took over and how that journey towards innovation and digital transformation has been progressing and where you stand today.
I think so. When I came to the agency, taking over for the generations before myself, we're the current custodians of the taxpayers' money and their mission. So the responsibility is a simple one: move people safely, reliably, and in a cost-effective manner around our region. And what I came into is we had quite a bit of already existing motion toward low emission vehicles. And the context, our city leadership, our county leadership is very cognizant and very forward thinking regarding sustainability and what its impact on our community and our society is. So at their direction, we focus a lot of time and effort within the agency where I'm trying to figure out how to become the most sustainable transportation network as possible. And that in transportation, the beauty of that is a key part of it is vehicles. So simple equation. We had already here at the agency started to move toward a compressed natural gas (CNG) fleet. Probably just about 5 years ago. I've been here just over 3. So the journey had started, and it was done through a public-private partnership. And that public-private partnership gave birth to the business structure and the capability to fuel CNG vehicles. And then of course, on the manufacturing side, the manufacture and maintenance of a CNG vehicle became a lot more cost effective as well as maintenance effective, so you could keep the vehicles reliably on the road. So with that journey, we had already started moving toward a low emission. So in that case, you still have sound, you still have the noise of a large vehicle, you still have some level of emission. So it's not a perfect solution, but it's a heck of a lot better than diesel and standard combustion engine. So the next level in that journey, of course, is zero emission technology. So when I came in, it was, okay, so how do we really start taking a peek at this zero emission component? So we started the journey, and in public agencies, we made our pitch. We made our pitch through grant dollars at a federal level for a program that is established by the federal government. So it's the Low No Emissions Grant. And we were able to, with our city leadership saying, please go forth and do this, and their direction, set up a public-public-public partnership. So through the auspices of the city of Orlando in partnership with OUC and us here at Lynx, we pulled together this consortium to really focus on electrification of transportation. With that, it was sort of started a journey toward, okay, can we set together a proposal that makes sense to federal grantors to be able to say, hey, this is a program worth doing, and this community really has the drive to do it. So when we did that, we actually put together this collaborative team and went after these grants. We were joking around that all we were trying to do is birth one vehicle. So we were trying to give birth to one. So we did that. We got that on an initial grant. We thought, well, that's great. We also had this other grant application, the Low No grant, that had buses 2 through 8 in it. Before we even started to move on the first bus, we got awarded the second. So now instead of having a baby, we had octuplets. So it's like, okay, this is great. And then right after that, our community said, no, please, let's push it even farther. Let's go for 14. So we're on that journey right now. So we've already gone through phase 1, 2, and we're in phase 3. And for public agencies, this is very quick. We're doing this in months, not years. I think that's one of the things COVID has taught us all is, we can do things quickly if we wish to. And we can move mountains very quickly if we have to. So we're tending to move mountains. So Mohammed does not need to walk to this mountain. We're going to move the whole mountain to him. And that's basically the electrification component. So the technologies are vast and very complex. It includes, a lot of grid impacts. It impacts a whole lot of information on charging infrastructure. These are new buses with relatively new technology put in a different way. So there's a whole bunch of complexity to it, which makes it very interesting and compelling. But we're also finding that it's ready for prime time. It's ready for use in a essential service like a bus system. So if we miss a bus route, somebody doesn't get to work on time. They don't meet an essential trip they need. They don't get to their dialysis appointment. So we have to be good. We can't just be good. We've got to be better than good. We've got to be reliable. So these kinds of systems, we have to make sure they're ready for that community to utilize them. So we're learning through these pilots, and then we can scale. So the next question is, how do we scale electrification? Because our strategic vision is that we would be, and this is at the auspices of the cities and the counties here in Central Florida, Orange, Osceola, Seminole County, of course, with the DOT's support and the city of Orlando. These leaders, these political leaders have told us, thou shalt. So we've got a plan that puts us to 50% zero emission vehicles in the next 10 years by 2030. So how we scale, there's a lot of questions in how we scale. And that's the compelling stuff we're trying to figure out right now.
That is really cool. And like you said, hardware stuff and making infrastructure changes those things take so much time, but the fact that you're pulling it off in a matter of months is remarkable. And congratulations on getting those grants approved and already being so far along on that journey. Uh, what in terms of other initiatives that you feel are pushing the envelope in terms of innovation? What about data and how you handle data and what you do with in terms of efficiency or insights and that kind of thing? Anything to share on that front, sir?
Absolutely. On that side, it's interesting, especially in transportation and transit specifically. It's all about standards. So just to put some context on it, we're a public agency where we are funded by taxpayers. So the data that we gain and garner is actually taxpayers. It's not ours. We're custodians, we're stewards, but we don't own it. We're also not the hub in the wheel. We're one of the spokes in a fully flexible, agile transportation network. So our data is valuable and should be monetized by the private sector. So, and it's taxpayer money, so why wouldn't we provide that data in an easy, standardized format? So that's what we've been doing, is working with the standards committees and boards throughout our domestic United States to make sure that our data, the transit data, is available and is acceptable to be ingested by all of these mobile applications providers. So for those that may not know transportation transit, you have sort of multiple tiers of a mobile experience, right? So you have the Googles and Apples of Google Maps, Apple Maps, so the large players there. And you can see mapped information, you can see transit information, right? And that's a GTFS standard. So it's a general transit file structure standard. And then there's also another standard called GTFS RT. So as a public agency, we've gone through initiatives in the last couple of years to go ahead and put our data in those formats and put them out into the world so that these organizations can ingest this data and show passengers. We need to meet passengers where they are. So for all of us in the mobile world, the mobile applications world, so on, I don't want to have to ever tell a passenger, you have to use our mobile app to interact with the bus here in Central Florida. We have 75 million tourists that come to our region every year. We have 2.5 million residents that are growing at 16% pre-COVID. Those people need to be able to interact with the bus system in the application of their choosing. So the use of these standards makes that plausible and practical. And also it reduces cost to us. We don't have to maintain a mobile application. We just publish our data. So the next step in that is frictionless fare payment systems. So how can we build standards that allow for someone to, in effect, pay for their transportation in one series of transactions across multiple modes? So the idea being, if you want to take the bus and the train, the bus, the scooter, the train, the bus, the scooter, the train, the TNC, all of those. Right now, you have to go into multiple mobile applications and plan your different visits and do all your fare collection and pay the different people and have different accounts. In the future, we should look for a future that allows us to do that all in one place, just like the Amazon for transportation, right? You go into Amazon, you click pay, it pays, it processes, it pays multiple vendors, multiple ways, in multiple transactions, all with a very low cost of administration, with a very high touch and a very easy of use. So that construct is the same type of construct here. So call it Walmart, call it Amazon, that type of capability where you commoditize the transportation network, because our goal is to make transit so easy that somebody walking out of their car, walking out of their house in the morning can say, instead of getting in my car, I'd rather walk 2 blocks to the bus stop. And then I'd like to take that bus to the train station, take that train station to the other side, and maybe take a taxi or a TNC to my office. I'd rather do that trip, get 2,000 steps for my health index, reduce my carbon imprint, by 16%. Instead of paying $5.06 for gas and maintenance of my car, I'm going to pay a fare of $4. And I've done this all without having to sit down and actually make a plan.
Yeah,
Right?
that's really powerful, especially because if you look at the new trends of ownership, car ownership definitely going down amongst the new generation. So providing these options to that generation, especially for the urban population, seems like that would be a good bet on the future. Is that where you're kind of seeing these all coming together and the demand coming up at the same time that supply is?
You got it. Yeah, and I would say the demand's already there. It's just a choice. People are choosing another option just because the option to do a multimodal trip in current day is it's 20 minutes of planning trying to figure it out, even if you really know what you're doing. So imagine, you walk out of your car right now and you just go, you just drive. Those people are not going to make that shift until the value proposition is there for their time. And we ease that transition through technology. And I think just like everybody, made that transition for, iPhones, how many user manuals have we all read on different technologies that were a pound and a half in weight? And then the iPhone came out without a user manual. And mysteriously, everybody figured it out. That's where transit is going. That's where multimodal transportation should go. That's where we have to remove all that friction, all those barriers. And part of that is, from a transit agency standpoint, we don't own anything. We enable others to monetize that data to provide the best experience for passengers.
Gotcha. So tell me about how you're approaching that. I mean, based on what you just said, it seems like you're really, the strategy is to partner, right? And so in terms of how you go about doing that partnership to get to a level of innovation, that if you're not doing that innovation in-house, like how are you working with the partners to generate that innovation or co-create that innovation?
So it's a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations with those partners, and then honestly, open, honest translation. So a big key is we're not competitive, right? So a lot of these partners over the years have felt like they're in competition with an agency or someone else. That's not our bailiwick. We are about moving passengers safely, reliably, in a cost-effective manner around our region. We're not a custom development software shop. We're not a mobile applications provider. We are not a transaction processing company. We're not a merchant services company. We're none of those things. So I would say we go back to strategy. We go back to core mission. So what makes it easy for us to interact with these partners, and which is sort of fun because they're not used to hearing that from agencies, from groups, right? We are agnostic. We would be happy for them to monetize and be able to figure that out, because that's just better for passengers, right? And on our part, our passengers paid for that data to be created in the first place. So why wouldn't we help our passengers have access to information and data in an appropriate manner? And then the other blessing is we've kept it very, very simple, because we have an anonymous system. It doesn't say that Rajiv is going from point A to point B. We don't have that information. We just know one person moved from point A to point B. That's all. So
that's very critical, especially with, kind of the legal actions that have been had against Uber and other companies for tracking a lot of very personal information. That is good to know, especially for, Orlandoans here.
yeah, we don't want to. I mean, so like this simple example, our passengers who come from London, right? They use the London Transit. If they get out at Orlando International Airport and they turn on location awareness on their cell phones right now, and they pull up their London Transit app, they're going to see our Lynx bus route system. They're going to see it on a map of Central Florida, utilizing the system they're used to using, their application that they're used to using at home with all its features, right there, right? No problem. That's what standards gives us. Now we don't have to say, customer, please download this application, do these 14 things, do these 5 training events, blah, 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 blah. Nothing. Use what you have. Meet them where they are.
That's really powerful. So tell me a little bit about the innovation practice that you have set up there in terms of what kind of problems do you look at as, hey, this is a Lynx or this is our problem that we're going to solve versus, how do you decide what you solve and innovate on versus what your partners solve and innovate on? Do you have structures and methodologies in place for that? How do you think about those problems?
Yeah, I think there's a few simple ones. So within transit and transportation, and as a state agency, and also as a conduit for federal funds into our region, we have multiple different tiers of planning. So it starts with the Transportation Development Plan, TDP, that has embedded in it a fleet management plan that looks at all the fleet responsibilities. We have a transit asset management plan that looks at all the assets that we must maintain in state of good repair. So there's strategy, there's objectives, there are measurable results, there are audits. We have to do triennial audits as well with different agencies, including the FTA and the Florida Department of Transportation. So we are built on a framework of planning and strategic articulation. So that's a great foundation for innovation, right? So in innovation, sometimes I think the critical part is focus. As especially in living in consulting as well as in industry for many, many years, the organizations that you see that are just truly innovative are aggressive about their focus, because one of the things about innovation is you just chase anything that's shiny, and you can basically do 1,000 things 2%, or let's do the math right. You do 50 things 2%, nothing gets done, right? Innovation becomes the thing that everybody looks at the end of the budget and says, why am I paying for this again? Because I didn't get anything, right? So I think our framework is predicated on these plans. They are intended to be incremental plans toward a solution. So you show progress, you have to talk about progress, you have to actually articulate progress to people that are funding you. So I think there's a critical part of innovation that within a state agency that is already embedded and inculcated, because it's not all about basic research. You do get a little bit of that. It's okay to dream a little, but it is about execution. It's about innovation to execute. So that's a compelling model, and that's one that we leverage here. The second piece of the innovation component is, especially here, we innovate on the components that are key to strategic mission. Everything else, elegant follower, is our strategic direction, right? So we spend, like, I would honestly tell you, almost zero time looking at commoditized office productivity, cloud-based solutions, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they're there. Yes, that's neat. For agencies or organizations that have hundreds of thousands of employees and have those types of capabilities, they can be very innovative in that space. That's not us. Our mission is to move people safely, reliably, and in a cost-effective manner around our region. And I would add to that, in a sustainable way. So innovation in our space, why did we go after that Low-No grant? That's 100,000 gallons of diesel fuel that we're not going to spend money on, that we're not going to burn in buses in Central Florida, that are not going to create emissions. Almost 100 pounds of particulate matter will not go into the atmosphere. And they're all aligned directly to our mission: safe, reliable, in a cost-effective manner. So it was one of those, of course you would do that innovation. Of course you would do that. And then the sub pieces of that are, now we have monitoring systems. We know exactly what's going on that at those 8 telematic vehicles, because we've got telematic data from each one of those vehicles. We have new fare boxes that tell us more information about how passengers pay for fares. We have automated passenger counters that are IR sensors that tell us how many people go on and get off a bus, each door, which stop, right? Without telling us that it is Rajiv. We don't ever ask Rajiv. It's just a person transiting through our community. And then how do we optimize our systems to that?
Gotcha.
So that's, I think, the critical part. So the innovation models, I would say that we have not established a traditional innovative model. What we've done is embedded the innovation model into the transit existing plans and infrastructure. Again, we didn't want to build another mountain. We just took Muhammad and brought him to the mountain. In our case, innovation to transit.
Gotcha. So on that note, what are some of the things that, how do you approach innovation in this model, given that, it's very hardware focused and it's very like, moving physical things from here to there. It's not just moving data, it's also people. You have data, you have tons of data too, but can you give me a flavor for, what kind of experimentation or metrics and, how do you pivot or persevere? Like, where are you brainstorming new ideas that come up from, looking at some of the data or things like that, that you've, that you've experienced so far?
I think on the, if you look at just the sort of innovation on the fleet side, it's about improving the passenger experience with zero emission and low emission vehicles, right? So moving away from diesel, right? Moving away from gas powered combustion engine. But every bus, just to put it some context in here, every bus is between $500,000 and $1 million, right? These are not cheap assets. Second part of it is they have 12-year life cycles. Each bus, there's more processing power in a bus than the data centers that I worked in the early 90s, right? And we covered buildings of data centers. A bus has more processing power and more drive space than we had in the early 90s in massive data centers. So that processing capability and maintaining it and making sure that it is, again, safe, reliable, and cost effective is an enormous amount. The second piece is we're regional assets, so we have facilities as well. So we're looking at innovative ways to maintain our facilities, both a sustainable way as well as more cost effective way. And then the final part is, again, it's about passengers and it's about our bus operators having a safe, reliable system to operate in. So we're constantly looking at all this data and saying, okay, so how do we build better route structures so that people can live a productive and happy life in our region? And all of that is being done under the auspices of our political leadership that says this is what their constituents want, and they provide us that direction to say, go forth and conquer, do these things that are safe, reliable, cost effective, with an eye to sustainability. So I think we have some really wonderful leaders in our community, our political leaders in the counties and the city, to give us that auspices and say, go forth and conquer. And then they hold us to it. How did you do? We have to stand up in public, in a public meeting, and say, this is how we did. And the community can come and ask and say, hey, we don't feel like you're moving fast enough. And we get after it. So
yeah, you have a direct connection to the customer feedback loop right there.
Absolutely. If you ever live through a public meeting, you'll make sure that you know what you're doing and you button it up.
Exactly. So on that note, actually, tell me about some of the challenges you face with that, things that get in the way of innovation or moving quickly, or, the speed of pivots and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think, as a lot of people joke and everything, it's, government agencies are bureaucracies. there are bureaucratic steps that are intended, of course, for compliance and safeguards, right? We are using public money. We need to make sure that we're doing it not only for the right thing, but in the right way. So I would say that that makes doing innovation in this environment, it's almost, if you can do it, it's really, really a joyful event when you actually get something done, because you've not only done it in the right direction, you've done it in the right way. So I think some of the challenges is within a bureaucratic environment, bureaucracies are not intended to be efficient in any way, shape, or form, right? Startup agencies, startup organizations, ultimately efficient, right? Couple of founders spin around in a chair, dream up something, and go forth and conquer. Public agency is not that. We have 100 years of statute that we live with and make sure that we're doing things in the right way to safeguard. So I think that's sort of the blessing and the curse of a bureaucracy. When you get it done, it's an amazing thing. So like this electric vehicle activity, like the standardization of the data, like our fare box for contactless payments, like moving call center remote in a month. All of these things in a public agency, to be able to do those things and do it is it's a lot of fun when you can innovate in an environment that's established with those two protocols, because it's not easy, and it wouldn't be any fun if it was easy. So I think, there's a little bit of masochism in it. You gotta really love it. You gotta get after it, and when you can do that, it's a lot of fun, and the impact's there. I mean, you go home and say, hey, this is what we did as a community today.
Yeah.
It takes years. It doesn't take days. You got to stay focused.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what the future brings for you and for Lynx, and kind of where you see this, all these different threads that you're talking about: electrification, self-driving, TNC, single payer model, and all of this stuff. Where do you see all of that converging?
I think, so here in our community, as you may know, the Mayor Demings set forth a tax initiative, a 1 penny sales tax for transportation prior to COVID, and held quite a few public hearings, meetings to really foster the conversation with the residents of Central Florida, and specifically Orange County. He set that aside with COVID. So I think we stand at the ready if the mayors and the chairman and commissioners of Osceola and Seminole County, as they ask their communities what they want in transportation, we stand at the ready to be that agency for them. So if they ask us to continue forward at status quo and continue to operate the bus system that we currently have at the size we have, we're going to make the best bus system we can with the assets this community gives us to do that. So we will optimize that. If this community turns around and says they're willing to pay for a different level, and that tax referendum would make a very, very different transit world and public transportation world here for Central Florida. That makes it a very, very different conversation. Let's just put it that way. We could truly change how people move around our community from a perspective of that type of funding. And that's all up to the taxpayers. That's all up to the people that live in this community, and working with Mayor Deming to find that medium. But we at the agency, we work at their pleasure. So if the residents of Central Florida wish that future, then we'll be after it, and we'll all have fun getting there. If they say no, do what you're doing, what we're going to do is keep doing those things that we're doing. We're going to optimize. We're going to utilize this information as best we can to create a system that helps them move from point A to point B to live, work, and play where they wish to, and be able to do that in an appropriate manner. So, and the innovation side, it's fun. So, the last original idea was a light bulb. So innovation to me is really connecting things we already know in different ways. So that's what we're going to continue to do here at the agency, just like we did with our public-public partnership on the electric bus side.
Right.
We're going to do the same types of concepts with our mobile applications. We're not in that business. The private sector is going to do that. We'll give the data, and our public will get the best application that the private sector can create. It's just the right answer. Because they're going to use the applications that the customers, the passengers can use the applications that they are most comfortable with. So we want to make sure our data is there for them to utilize.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this is great. So on that note, what kind of tools, methodologies, or any books that you recommend that you have in your experience applied to the current, position, or actually even in the past, like things that you would recommend as a CIO?
Yeah, I think when you talk about innovation, when you talk about these types of things, and I think you raised it in the beginning, Rajiv, is try not to be siloed. So we all define ourselves, and especially individuals that have a technology bent. If you spend all your time on technology, you have a one-sided view. So if you're a technologist, look for the things you're not. So go get Six Sigma certification for process improvement. Go do a financial controls class and maybe an accounting class and understand what's going on there. Go take a little bit of time in introspection and understand your Myers-Briggs and understand how you interact with individuals and those types of activities. Great book is Strength Finders. Phenomenal. I think it's a phenomenal book as you think back and say, hey, focus on your strengths, minimize your weaknesses. It's a great construct. It's a heck of a lot better than trying to make your weaknesses better. That's a fool's errand. You spend all your time at the stuff you're bad at. Of course, you're just gonna get less bad. You're not gonna get great. Get great by optimizing those things that you are really strong in, and then find people or ways to mitigate the things you're not, and acknowledge, hey, these things I'm not good at. So I think as we grow as leaders, as people, understanding that self-awareness is the gift you give yourself. Really get clear on the things that you're good at, and then surround yourself with people that are really good at the things you're not. And you'll drive a team, and you'll be a part of a team that you'll be really, really excited to be in every single day. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the people you work with. And it's all about the vision and mission that you're going after. And then, finding joy in it. And then knowing it's a job, and you go home to the people you love. So leave it all on the field, and then go home and find joy with the people you love. That's a good life. That's not bad. So I think for me, that would be the final statement, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's actually very good, because a lot of times, there's a certain cult of productivity and all of that gets into it, where you kind of tend to go towards an unbalanced life. So I'm glad you raised that question, because that's a very topical thing right now, with everybody dealing with the COVID aftermath, and especially starting to realize what's important in their life. So that's a great call out there at the end. On that note, we're almost out of time here, but I want to make sure I give you a chance. And first of all, thank you for the interview and for your time, and also for the time that you're putting into the Orlando Tech Council and the Ecosystem Committee, and your wisdom and knowledge there is very, very valuable. Thank you for that. But do you have any asks for the audience, for the community in general? Anything that job openings or anything else that you can think of that you would need help with putting the word out?
I think we're a public agency, so the folks that give us feedback, what we know are the folks that interact with our agency today. We don't know about the other people in our community. So for the analytic group, we suffer from survivor bias. So we know what we know, but we don't know about the people that don't use transit and transportation. So as our community leaders are asking these questions about transportation in our region, please have a voice and be a part of the public process. I think would be phenomenal. The other part is we have a beautiful community of amazing assets. When we look at our higher education, when we look at our region and its natural beauty, we look at the tourism and 75 million passenger people coming here to our community every year. Taking the best of those things and making a wonderful place to live, I think is a really neat thing. So my ask would be, we as a public agency, we put out internships. So if you have students that are in local colleges that are looking for their internships and would like to understand sort of how we help passengers around our community, we post our internships. We'd love to have students that are in university or colleges in our community come and help us, because we learn just as much from them as they do from us, and it'd be a lot of fun to have that interaction with the student population here in Central Florida.
That's awesome. Where would they go to find out about this information?
We post them on our website, so golynx.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's or a really easy ask to our director of HR, or they can reach out to me. No problem.
Wonderful. That is good stuff. I will definitely help put the word out there. And thank you so much again, John, for taking a few minutes. This has been very informative, especially for a lot of people who are used to thinking about just software, but knowing that and understanding that innovation doesn't just fall in that one world, right? It's all over and it's all encompassing. And there's so many aspects of human life that need innovation to happen to make things get better. So thank you for everything that you do, sir. I really appreciate your time today, and I will catch you on our next meeting at OTC.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Take care.
See ya. Bye.